So have you ever been like staring at your bio textbook
Yeah.
and just totally confused by the chapter on blood and circulation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it could be a tough one, but I think it's way more interesting than people give it credit for.
I agree with that. It's actually super fascinating.
Yeah, so today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the circulatory system.
We're going to unpack all the complexities.
Yeah, exactly. From this chapter in this bio textbook, and by the time we're done, you'll be acing all your bio tests.
At least that's the plan.
That's the goal, and yeah, you'll even have some fun facts to impress your friends.
Yeah, like at parties or something.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with the basics.
So, when we think about more and more complex organisms, right? Simple diffusion just doesn't cut it anymore.
Right.
So you got to have a good transport system.
Right.
Think of it like this. Imagine you order a pizza and the delivery person is trying to get to you in a city with no roads.
Oh, man, I would be so hungry.
You would never get that pizza. And it's the same concept with cells deep inside our bodies. They need a way to get nutrients and oxygen and to get rid of waste.
Right.
That's where our amazing circulatory system comes in. It's like our own personal delivery service and sanitation crew all in one.
So blood is basically like the Amazon Prime of our bodies.
You could say that, yeah.
I like that.
Blood is actually a special type of connective tissue.
Okay.
It's made up of two main things, plasma and formed elements.
Yeah.
Now, plasma, that's the liquid part,
Okay.
like the highway that everything travels on, and it makes up about 55% of your blood.
Wow, that's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, it's mostly water, but it also contains proteins like fibrinogen,
Fibrinogen.
which is super important for clotting.
Okay.
You know, like when you get a paper cut
Oh, yeah.
and you don't just keep bleeding forever?
Yeah, thank goodness for that.
Right. Plasma also has globulins, which are part of your immune system. They're like the bodyguards.
Okay.
And albumins, which help regulate osmotic balance, keeping everything running smoothly.
Okay, so plasma's like the delivery truck, all packed up with the stuff cells need.
Yeah, a good analogy.
But who are the drivers?
That's where the formed elements come in.
Okay.
They make up about 45% of your blood, and they're like the specialized vehicles in this system.
Okay.
We've got erythrocytes, leukocytes, and platelets.
So red blood cells, white blood cells, and the tiny clot makers.
It's like a bustling city at a microscopic level.
I love that.
So let's break it down further. Erythrocytes, or red blood cells, are like tiny delivery vans.
Yeah, okay.
They're packed with hemoglobin, which is an iron-rich protein that binds to oxygen.
And that's what makes blood red.
Exactly. And get this, in mammals, these RBCs are so committed to their job, they actually ditch their nuclei.
Wait, they have no nucleus?
Nope.
Wow, that's like taking out the driver's seat to make more room for packages.
Right. It's all about maximizing their oxygen carrying capacity.
That's dedication.
But like any good delivery van, they do have a limited lifespan.
Okay.
After about 120 days, they get sent to the spleen, which is sometimes called the RBC graveyard.
Oh, that sounds kind of spooky.
Yeah, but it's just where they go to be recycled.
Okay, so it's like a junkyard for red blood cells.
Pretty much. Now let's talk about those white blood cells.
Okay, the leukocytes.
They're the superheroes of our immune system. They protect us from infections.
Right.
Now, they're fewer in number than the red blood cells, but way more diverse.
Okay.
We've got granulocytes, which have granules in their cytoplasm like neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils.
Okay, and remind me what eosinophils do again.
Those are the ones that react strongly to allergens.
Oh, right.
Like if your friend with allergies is near a cat,
Yep. That's when the eosinophils go into overdrive.
they're like the body's bouncers,
No,
keeping those
okay.
allergens in check.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Then we have the agranulocytes, which don't have those obvious granules. Lymphocytes and monocytes fall into this category.
Okay, so if the granulocytes are like the regular cops, are the lymphocytes like the SWAT team?
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay.
Lymphocytes are the special forces of the immune system. They target very specific threats. And of course, we can't forget about platelets.
Right. Those little guys are important.
They're tiny cell fragments that are essential for blood clotting.
So they're like the first responders to a cut or injury?
Exactly. They rush to the scene and form a plug to stop the bleeding.
Okay, so we've got our delivery trucks, our cops, our SWAT teams, and our first responders.
It's a whole city happening inside us.
And it's all working together to keep us alive.
Exactly. Now, here's a question I've always wondered. We know that not all blood is the same.
Right.
So why can't we just give anyone a blood transfusion from anyone else?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's like trying to plug your phone into any random charger and hoping it works.
Right.
Sometimes it might, but other times it could really mess things up.
Yeah.
And that's where blood groups come in.
Right. Like the ABO and RH systems?
Exactly. Those are like blood's own personal ID cards.
Okay, so tell me more about those systems.
So the ABO system is based on these things called antigens. They're on the surface of your red blood cells. And you also have antibodies in your plasma that attack foreign blood types.
So it's like each blood type has its own security team checking for the right credentials.
Exactly. And this is why blood typing is so important for transfusions.
Right. You don't want to mix the wrong types.
Definitely not. It can trigger a dangerous immune response and cause the blood to clump together.
Okay, so I remember from the textbook that type O blood is the universal donor
That's right.
because it doesn't have any A or B antigen.
Exactly. It doesn't set off any alarms in the recipient's blood.
And type AB is the universal recipient because it has both A and B antigens.
You got it. It's like the VIP. It gets in anywhere.
Cool. And then there's the RH factor, which adds another layer of complexity.
Yes. The RH factor is another antigen that can be on the red blood cells.
Okay.
If you have it, you're RH positive. If you don't, you're RH negative.
Okay.
And RH incompatibility can be a serious issue during pregnancy, especially if an RH negative mother has an RH positive fetus.
Right. That's called erythroblastosis fetalis.
Yeah, it sounds scary, but luckily there are ways to prevent it with medication.
So we've talked about blood, the cells, the blood types.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But how does this magical fluid actually stop flowing when we get a cut?
That's a question for the ages. Well, maybe not that long.
Right.
But it is pretty amazing how our bodies just know how to patch themselves up.
Yeah.
It's like having your own emergency repair crew on call 247.
So how does it actually work?
Well, first, those tiny platelets rush to the injury site and form a plug.
Okay, so they're like the first responders on the scene.
Exactly. Then a series of clotting factors in your plasma get activated.
Okay.
It's like a chain reaction, and it ultimately leads to the formation of fibrin.
Fibrin.
It's a thread-like protein that creates a mesh, trapping blood cells and forming a stable clot.
So it's like a construction crew comes in and builds a wall to seal up the cut.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And calcium ions are essential for this whole process, too.
Oh, really?
Yep. Without calcium, the clotting factors can't do their job properly.
So calcium is like the foreman making sure everything gets done right.
Exactly. It's a team effort.
Wow. It's incredible how much is going on inside us all the time without us even realizing it.
It really is.
We've covered so much ground already.
We have.
For the components of blood to clotting and blood types,
Yeah.
it's amazing how complex and efficient our bodies are.
And we're just getting started. Next, we'll dive into how this blood actually circulates throughout the body and explore the heart, the engine that drives it all.
So stay tuned, everyone. We're about to get to the heart of the matter.
Literally.
Exactly.
All right, so last time we were talking all about blood, right, and how it clots.
Yeah, all the different components.
All the cool stuff it does, but just having blood sitting there isn't very useful.
Right. It's like having a bunch of delivery trucks just parked in a garage.
Mm.
They need to be out on the roads delivering stuff.
Exactly. So that's where circulatory pathways come in.
Circulatory pathways.
Yeah, these are the routes that blood takes throughout the body. Think of them like the highways and byways of your circulatory system.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So there are two main types, open and closed.
Open. Does that mean the blood is just kind of sloshing around everywhere?
Not exactly sloshing, but in open circulatory systems, which you find in some invertebrates like insects,
Yep.
the blood is pumped by the heart into these open spaces called sinuses.
Sinuses.
And it just kind of bathes the organs directly. It's a bit less organized, like a free-for-all delivery service.
Interesting. So it's like those old-timey mail carriers who just rode around on horseback, tossing letters wherever.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But we humans, we're a bit more sophisticated.
That's right. You've got the closed system.
Exactly. In closed systems like ours, blood is always contained within vessels.
Okay.
And this allows for more precise control over blood flow and delivery. It's like having a dedicated network of roads with traffic signals, making sure those packages get where they need to go.
So it's all about efficiency, making sure those cells are getting their deliveries on time.
Precisely. Now, even within closed systems, there are different levels of complexity.
Okay.
Fish, for example, they have a simpler setup than we do.
Right. They just kind of swim around all day.
Well, they do a lot more than that, but their circulatory system is a bit more basic. They have a two-chambered heart,
2 chambers.
one atrium and one ventricle. It pumps deoxygenated blood to the gills to pick up oxygen, and then it flows directly to the rest of the body.
Okay.
It's a one-way trip, heart to gills to body and back to the heart.
So it's like a single loop highway, no exits or detours.
Exactly. We call this single circulation.
Single circulation.
Now, things get a bit more interesting in amphibians and reptiles.
Okay, what do they have?
They've got a three-chambered heart,
3 chambers.
2 atria, and 1 ventricle.
Wait, so they have an extra atrium? What's the point of that?
Well, that extra chamber allows for a partial separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood.
Okay.
So the left atrium receives the oxygen-rich blood from the lungs, and the right atrium gets the deoxygenated blood from the body.
But they both empty into the same ventricle.
I do.
So doesn't that just mix the blood back together again?
It does mix a little, but it's still a step up from single circulation. It's like having a highway with an express lane and a local lane, but they merge for a bit.
Okay, I see. So amphibians and reptiles have a slightly more organized delivery system.
Yeah, but we mammals, we're at the top of the circulatory food chain.
Right, we've got the 4-chambered heart.
Exactly. 2 atria and 2 ventricles, complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood.
So no mixing allowed.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like having a highway with separate lanes for each direction, ensuring a smooth and efficient flow of traffic.
Okay, so more chambers, more efficiency, more energy.
That's the idea. This double circulation is essential for our active, warm-blooded lifestyle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So we've got these circulatory pathways figured out, but what about the heart itself? It's the engine that keeps this whole system running right.
Absolutely. The heart is an incredibly powerful and efficient pump. It's beating nonstop your entire life.
That's a real workhorse.
It is. It's located slightly to the left in your chest, and it's protected by a double-walled sac called the pericardium.
The pericardium, so it's like the heart's own personal bodyguard.
You could say that inside it has 4 chambers, all those valves, and major blood vessels. It's a pretty amazing organ.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so walk me through how it all works.
Okay, so the right atrium, that's where deoxygenated blood enters the heart.
Okay.
It comes in from the body through the superior and inferior vena cava, those are the largest veins in the body.
Okay.
Then this blood flows through the tricuspid valve.
The tricuspid valve.
Yeah, it's a one-way door, making sure the blood flows in the right direction.
Okay.
From the right ventricle, the blood is pumped through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery.
And that takes it to the lungs, right?
Exactly, to get oxygenated.
Okay, so that's the pulmonary circuit we talked about earlier.
Right, heart to lungs and back again.
But wait a minute, I thought arteries were supposed to carry oxygenated blood.
Ah, that's a common misconception. Arteries are actually defined by the direction they carry blood away from the heart, not by whether the blood is oxygenated or not.
Okay, so the pulmonary artery is like the outbound lane to the lungs, even if the blood isn't carrying much oxygen yet.
Exactly. Now let's move to the left side of the heart. The left atrium receives the oxygenated blood from the lungs through the pulmonary veins.
Okay.
And this oxygen-rich blood flows through the bicuspid valve, also called the mitral valve,
Okay.
and into the left ventricle.
The left ventricle.
This chamber is a powerhouse. It has the thickest walls of all the chambers, and it's responsible for pumping that oxygenated blood out to the rest of the body.
Okay, so it goes through the aortic valve and into the aorta, the largest artery in the body.
Exactly. From there, it gets distributed to every nook and cranny of your body through a network of arteries, arterioles, and capillaries.
That's the systemic circuit delivering oxygen and nutrients to every cell.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And all of this pumping is orchestrated by a specialized electrical system within the heart.
Okay, so this is where we get into the cardiac cycle, the heart's own rhythm and beat.
Exactly. It's all about contraction and relaxation, perfectly timed to keep that blood flowing smoothly and efficiently.
It's like a perfectly choreographed dance with each part of the heart moving in sync.
That's a great analogy. And the conductor of this dance is the sinoatrial node, or SAN for short.
Yes, San.
It's located in the right atrium, and it's often called the pacemaker of the heart.
Right, because it sets the tempo for the whole routine.
Exactly. It generates electrical impulses that spread through the atria, causing them to contract and push blood into the ventricles.
Okay, then what happens?
Well, then the impulse reaches the atrioventricular node, or AV node,
The AV now.
and this acts like a slight delay in the music.
Okay, so it's like a pause in the dance, allowing everyone to get into position.
Exactly. The AV node gives the ventricles time to fill completely before they contract.
Okay, that makes sense.
From the AV node, the impulse travels down this pathway called the bundle of His,
It's the bundle of hairs.
and then through the Purkinje fibers spreading throughout the ventricles. This causes the ventricles to contract forcefully, pushing blood out to the lungs and the rest of the body.
Okay, so we've got the SAN setting the rhythm, the AV node adding a pause, and then the bundle of his and Purkinje fibers carrying the signal to the ventricles.
It's a well-coordinated relay race, ensuring the heart beats in a smooth and efficient way.
This is fascinating.
And we can actually see all of this electrical activity using an electrocardiogram or ECG.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those in movies. They always make those dramatic beeping sounds.
Yeah, that's the one. The ECG records the electrical impulses generated by the heart and produces a characteristic wave pattern.
Oh, yeah?
And each wave represents a different phase of the cardiac cycle.
So doctors can use this to see if the heart is beating in the right rhythm.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like a conductor checking to make sure the orchestra is playing in time.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's an invaluable tool for diagnosing any heart problems.
Exactly. It helps make sure the heart symphony is playing flawlessly.
Okay, so we've talked about how the heart beats, but does it just keep beating at the same pace all the time, no matter what we're doing?
That's a great question, and the answer is no. While the heart has its own intrinsic rhythm set by the SAN, its activity can be influenced by the nervous system and hormones.
Okay, so it's like a drummer who can play a steady beat, but also adjust the tempo depending on the song.
Exactly. Think of the autonomic nervous system as the conductor sending signals to the heart to speed up or slow down, depending on the situation.
Okay, so remind me again about the autonomic nervous system.
All right, so the autonomic nervous system has two branches, the sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Okay, those names always confuse me.
Well, think of the sympathetic nervous system as the fight or flight system.
Okay.
It kicks in when you're stressed or excited, releasing hormones like adrenaline that increase your heart rate and the force of contraction.
So like when you're running from a zombie or about to take a big test, your heart is pounding thanks to the sympathetic nervous system.
Exactly. It's making sure you have enough energy to either fight or flee.
Okay, and what about the parasympathetic nervous system?
That's the opposite. It's the rest and digest system. It slows down your heart rate and promotes relaxation.
So after you've escaped the zombies or aced that test, the parasympathetic nervous system helps your heart chill out.
Exactly. It brings everything back to a normal rhythm.
So it's all about maintaining balance.
Precisely. Making sure the heart is playing the right tune for the situation.
I like that analogy.
Hmm.
And what about hormones? How do they affect heart rate?
Well, hormones like adrenaline, which we mentioned earlier, and noradrenaline, are released from the adrenal glands.
Yeah.
And they act like guest musicians stepping in to increase heart rate and contractility when needed.
So it's a real team effort. The nervous system and hormones working together to keep the heart symphony on point.
Exactly. It's an amazing example of how different systems in the body work together to maintain homeostasis, keeping everything in balance and functioning smoothly.
This is all so incredible. It's like we've been backstage at the greatest show on earth, watching the heart and circulatory system in action.
It really is a remarkable system. But as amazing as it is, things can go wrong.
Right, because no system is perfect.
There are a number of disorders that can affect the heart and blood vessels, throwing a wrench into this finely tuned orchestra. We'll delve into those a bit later.
Okay, I'm ready for that. My brain is buzzing with all this circulatory knowledge.
We've covered a lot of ground.
So when we come back, we'll tackle those circulatory system disorders and see what happens when the music stops flowing smoothly.
Sounds good.
Welcome back, everyone. So we've been talking about the circulatory system, right? All the amazing things blood does, the heart pumping away. But there's this other system that often gets overlooked, the lymphatic system.
Ah, yes, the lymphatic system. It's like the unsung hero of the circulatory system.
Exactly. So we talked about blood delivering oxygen and nutrients through those tiny capillaries. But you mentioned some fluid leaks out. What happens to that?
Right, so that leaked fluid, it's called interstitial fluid, and it kind of hangs out between cells delivering nutrients and picking up waste.
Okay.
But it needs a way to get back into the circulation, and that's where the lymphatic system comes in.
So it's like a drainage system.
Yeah, and think of it as a network of pipes running alongside the circulatory system's highways, collecting that excess fluid and returning it to the bloodstream.
Okay, so it's like the lymphatic system is mopping up the spills and making sure nothing goes to waste.
That's a great way to put it, and it also plays a crucial role in immunity.
Oh, right, immunity. How does that work?
So remember those lymphocytes, the special forces of our immune system?
Yeah, the SWAT team.
Exactly. Well, the lymphatic system is like their home base. It's packed with lymph nodes, these little checkpoints strategically placed throughout the body.
Okay.
And as the fluid, now called lymph, flows through these nodes, the lymphocytes are scanning for anything suspicious.
So they're like security guards checking everyone's ID.
Exactly. They're on the lookout for pathogens, bacteria, viruses, anything that doesn't belong.
Okay.
And if they detect an intruder, they trigger an immune response, calling in reinforcements to fight off the infection.
That's why our lymph nodes sometimes swell up when we're sick.
Exactly. It's like the security checkpoint is getting crowded because there's a threat.
So those swollen glands are actually a sign that your immune system is working hard to protect you.
Precisely. It's a
Mhm.
good thing, even though it might be uncomfortable.
Okay, so the lymphatic system, it's like a sanitation crew and a security force all in one, keeping our bodies clean and protected.
It's pretty amazing and often overlooked.
And let's not forget about the spleen, another important part of this team.
Ah, yes, the spleen. We briefly mentioned it as the RBC graveyard.
Right, but I'm ready to learn more about this mysterious organ.
It's actually quite a multitasker.
Okay, tell me more.
So yeah, it filters the blood, removing old or damaged red blood cells, but it also stores a reserve of white blood cells and platelets ready to be deployed when needed.
So it's like a recycling center, a storage facility, and a military base all rolled into one.
Exactly. And it also helps fight off certain types of bacteria, especially those with capsules that can make them harder to detect.
Wow, the spleen is way more important than I realized.
It's crucial for both our circulatory and immune systems.
This has been an incredible journey. We've explored the circulatory system from the inside out,
We have.
from the components of blood to the heart's rhythm to the lymphatic system's behind-the-scenes operations.
It's amazing to think about all this happening inside us right now.
It really is, and it just shows how important it is to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Healthy lifestyle choices are key to keeping this amazing system running smoothly.
So eat your veggies, get some exercise, and don't stress too much.
Exactly. Those are words to live by.
Well, we've reached the end of our circulatory system deep dive, but the exploration doesn't have to stop here.
Right. Keep those brains buzzing, those questions flowing, and those bodies healthy.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next